And another team that won the lottery in a very interesting way, Houston Texans. So let me give you my
Yes.
theory, and you can tell me what the insider, the GM opinion is on this theory and whether it makes sense. So we'd heard for weeks that Will Levis was going to be almost certainly the number 2 player taken if the Houston Texans stayed put. And they got Will Levis, but they got him at 3, which means they had to trade up.
Will Anderson.
Will Anderson, thank you. Yeah, Will Levis, I'm sure he doesn't like me saying that. Will Anderson, edge rusher out of Alabama. CJ Stroud ended up being quarterback 2, taking with the second overall pick, something we had not heard rumblings of. And I think what happened, the Titans in particular, it sounded like in the moments leading up to the draft, were trying to get up to number 3 where the Arizona Cardinals sat, presumably to take CJ Stroud. So the Texans flipped what they were going to do. And you can tell me, but I would imagine they had this contingency conversation probably earlier before it
Yeah,
actually happened in real
there was
time.
probably the way the trades went down. There was a lot of talk going on before the draft, especially when you're making trades that high in the draft.
Yeah.
I remember we made a trade with Cleveland the year we drafted Matt Khalil. We moved down. Cleveland traded up for the running back from Alabama. And basically, that trade was done probably an hour before the draft. Now, once we got on the clock in Cleveland, we wanted to make sure their player was there, our player was there. So then we turned it in when we were on the clock, and then made the trade. So Cleveland came up to where we were. But there was a lot of discussion going on all day, and then we finalized it about an hour before the draft.
So it sounds like the Texans may have had similar conversations with Arizona because they were fearful another team coming up to get the quarterback that potentially they thought might be there 12. I don't know what the math was there, but Will Anderson didn't go number 2. They took CJ Stroud second, which I thought was the no-brainer pick. Every time we've done a group mock draft, either for CBS Sports HQ or the website, you've always, and if you had the second pick, you're taking CJ Stroud because it just, again, not overthinking it. So Will Anderson ends up in Houston, as does CJ Stroud, picks 2 and 3. They have to give up next year's first-round pick in addition to some other picks. But I'll ask you this, Rick. They had 2 first-rounders as part of the Deshaun Watson trade, so I'm sure that was part of the math they did. It still feels it's worth it because you've said from day one, you can't come out of this draft if you're the Houston Texans without a quarterback.
Correct. And then if you look at the trade chart, usually, everybody's working off these points, and each slot is worth so many points or valued at so many points. And, technically the Arizona Cardinals, if you just want to go off the point system, you want to be within 50 points of each other when you make trades, but you're dealing with a quarterback, and then you add in the element of DeMeco Ryans, who's a defensive coach / Alabama alum, goes out and gets the best player on the Alabama football team, in my opinion, besides Bryce Young. And I think he's going to be a great pass rusher in this league. But in order to do that, they gave up 966 points.
Yeah.
Which usually you want to be plus or minus 50. So from a point standpoint, Arizona came out on top. But if you look at the 2 players
right
that Houston was able to get, I would say, the heck with the points. I've got CJ Stroud, my franchise quarterback, and I've got the number 1 edge pass rusher in this draft, and Will Anderson. I'm as happy as it can be because I got 2 impact players that will be impact players as a rookie.
Yep, and Debo points out in our rundown here, 9th time quarterbacks drafted 1 and 2 in the common draft era. First time black quarterbacks drafted 1 and 2 in NFL draft history. So that is certainly noteworthy here. Head coach DeMeco Ryans was drafted 33rd overall by the Texans from Alabama in 2006. So some synergy there. And the Texans are better today than they were 24 hours ago. And they had an extra first-round pick to play with. And if you look at the draft value chart, as you point out, they quote-unquote lost. But we'll find out once we start playing football whether they're actual who won and who lost